I have seen many people claim that GURPS has a steep learning curve, that learning the system takes a long time and effort. I believe that this is mostly untrue, but you may believe otherwise. I would like to tell you about my journey in learning GURPS, in what order I did things, where I stumbled, and what felt effortless. Perhaps it will help some of you who are still new to the system. Otherwise, you just get to compare your experience to mine, and that can be fun as well. You probably know that most GURPS players will tell you to start with GURPS Lite. I think that's an incredibly bad idea, and I stand by my words. Even back then, I started with GURPS Basic set, even though I knew that GURPS Lite existed. I just read through it, from start to finish. The introduction explains the reader what GURPS is and how it works. The attribute section is a good deal different from D&D, as it also talks about appearance, reputation, status and wealth, showing off just how much more detailed it is. What I still find surprising is that many seem to be stumped by the advantage and modifier system. To me, that was one of the easiest parts to understand. Grab an advantage, read how it works, apply modifiers to change how it works, and you're done. Simple, well, usually simple, flexible and effective. Skills were quite easy to get used to as well. The default system is explained well, and the comprehensive list of skills was exciting, not intimidating. Techniques, on the other hand, were difficult for me. I have read that section several times, but still couldn't quite understand what it is all about. It clicked later when I read GURPS Martial Arts. I don't know why I couldn't get them before. They aren't that much different from skills. The combat system felt like the most intuitive thing ever. Everything just makes sense. There are no arbitrary rounds, move actions, standard actions, full round actions, swift actions. Everything is just a single second maneuver. When people say that GURPS combat is complex, I disagree. I think it's quite simple but still deep. Learning the combat system was a breeze. The rest of the book also wasn't difficult, it's mostly information for the GM on how to run the game. I had to read it, because I'm primarily a GM, and I understood that I will have to run a GURPS game first before playing it. For my first game, I ran a science fantasy game, something inspired by Dragonstar, one of my favorite third-party D&D settings. So for that I had to look into sci-fi tech and magic. I looked through the list of GURPS books and saw GURPS Magic and GURPS Ultra Tech, so I gave them a read. On the first read, I actually like GURPS Magic a lot. I like the fact that there are skills tied to spells, the college structure, and especially the prerequisite trees. However, even back then, I thought that it feels off that spell-like abilities built as advantages would cost more. It felt that wizards are way too cost-effective. But I thought that I'm probably missing something obvious and that the authors of GURPS know better, so I went with GURPS Magic. Weapons in GURPS Ultra Tech felt a bit too powerful, but that was mostly because that was before the errata that downgraded the Gauss rifle damage type and moved rainbow lasers to TL11. Still, despite all this, I had a lot of fun running the game. Then, when I was trying to run a fantasy game, I read through GURPS Low Tech and GURPS Martial Arts. GURPS Martial Arts made me understand how techniques work, and I was a big fan of all the new combat options. I did glance through GURPS Powers and GURPS Thaumatology, but I haven't read them properly, which was a huge mistake in hindsight. For the most part, I thought that GURPS Powers is more or less just a compilation of new modifiers for advantages. The whole concept of powers didn't really click with me either. Still, the game ran fine and we had a lot of fun. Then, Ritual Path Magic got released. It may be a surprise to you, but I actually absolutely loved it when I first read it. I thought that this is the best thing ever, and immediately made a switch from GURPS Magic to RPM. I think I ran 3 games using RPM, and boy, what a mess! Only one of the games went well, and not thanks but despite using RPM, and the other 2 were complete dumpster fires because of RPM. It just did not work as well in the game as it did on paper. I still harbor a strong dislike towards it. But at that moment I still had something of a fixed mindset. I wasn't thinking outside the box. I just believed that I have to use what GURPS gives me. I didn't properly understand the mutable toolbox nature of the system. But there was something that broke that mindset for me. Reading GURPS powers and GURPS thaumatology from start to finish. This is where GURPS clicked for me. In this moment I understood everything. It may sound pretentious or pompous, but that was like an epiphany, an event that made me rethink not only how I approach GURPS, but also how I approach RPGs in general. Everything started to make sense, and I knew how to mold the system to my own needs. Now I knew that GURPS works the way you want it to work, and at exactly that moment I understood that there is no generic GURPS game. Every GURPS GM basically has their own system, and I was excited. Coincidentally, at the same time I finished reading both of these books, Sorcery got released, and I thought, yes, this is what will replace RPM for me. I tried it, I liked it, I found flaws with it, I fixed them. Sure, the process of attaining the exact behavior of the system that I wanted took a lot of time and trial and error, but in the end I had something that satisfied me. So I would like to outline what I think the prerequisites to learning GURPS are, based on my own experience. Number 1. Be able to read. It may seem mean or condescending or both, but it actually seems to be a common problem nowadays. I still consider myself young, but I very frequently see younger people with zero reading skills. They ask questions that are answered either in the next sentence or at the end of the same sentence. It's like they see something they cannot understand and they just stop immediately without even finishing reading the sentence. But that's the worst case. Still, many also don't seem to know how to use the index and table of contents. Many questions can be answered by just looking at the table of contents or the index. If you have a PDF, just hit Ctrl F and it's just that simple. GURPS books are written in a simple language. I'm not a native speaker and it was a very easy book to read. If you claim that GURPS books are difficult to read, check something like Aria role-playing for a comparison. Number 2. Be able to count. GURPS has a reputation of a math-heavy system, but why? If addition and subtraction, or God forbid multiplication and division by simple numbers, is math-heavy, then I don't know. You have to be able to do this to function properly in the real life, don't you? Number 3. Have an attention span. That's a common problem in the modern world, and I have to say that even my attention span was eroded by YouTube and other stuff. Number 4. Read GURPS Basic Set, GURPS Powers and GURPS Thaumatology from start to finish. In my opinion, these books are the most important ones to break the mental inertia and make you understand what GURPS actually is and how it works. Number 5. Know what books there are. I often see people being upset about a topic being covered in greater detail in a book that is not GURPS Basic Set, saying that they didn't know what other books there are. But why didn't you? It's not a secret information. Just look at the list of GURPS books on SJ Games website. This is just basic research. Number 6. Have an actual desire to learn GURPS. If you do not want to learn GURPS, if reading the rule books is a chore to you instead of a leisure, then why are you doing it? If you don't like reading books, I don't think you'll like playing it. I do see people claiming that they would like to learn GURPS, but they do not want to read the books. If you do not want to put the least amount of effort into the easiest way to learn the system, do you really want to learn it? Are you sure? It's like saying that you want to play ice hockey, but then going, but skating isn't my thing. Can I play without learning skating? If that's the case, then you really should look for a different hobby. And number 7, do not be afraid to make mistakes. The simplest way to get better is to try, fail, and learn on your own mistakes. I have made plenty myself. So anyway, that was my experience learning GURPS and some tips for the new learners. I think that GURPS is actually quite easy to get into. It's easy to learn, but it is difficult to master. And mastering the system will take a long time and a lot of effort, but I think it pays off in the end. You get a system that works the way you want it to work and that you will probably be able to use for the rest of your life. I hope that was useful or at least entertaining. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.